Hey guys, it's your boy Wolfie. Today we're going to be continuing the Guides That Aren't Guides videos. We're going to be talking about the Mage today. And if you haven't seen the previous Assassin video, the purpose of these videos is for me to attempt to teach you guys how to create your own builds. So you're not just going in games and copying and pasting a build you found off YouTube or on SPL or through Twitch. You're going to understand why you purchase every item. It is my job to prepare you for all the scenarios that are going to come into the game. Before we go any further, I would like to thank you guys for watching the videos. And if you guys have been enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button, smash that like button, and drop a comment. I really appreciate all the feedback you guys leave me. Let me know if you liked the video, you got any requests for videos, anything. And don't forget, if you guys would rather have a more live response, feel free to pass on my Twitch. We stream 6 days a week, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern. And if that you don't want to respond to, you can always @ me on Twitter. It all works. Quick little disclaimer, this video is going to be about your standard burst mage. We are not going to be talking about the auto attack and carry mages because I want to make this video as easy to understand as possible. And the auto attack carry mages are going to get their own video. So I just felt like it would be less confusing to do it this way. If you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Alright, so mages. They have a very unique role in Smite, in the sense that they're a pure damage role that's trying to do as much damage as they possibly can to force you into buying magical protection. But they all come with their own form of utility. And oftentimes building towards that utility is what produces the most amount of damage. Right? For example, Poseidon builds some movement speed items that no other mage buys, like Toxic Blade. And the reason is because he gets benefits on his 2 for the attack speed, the movement speed works well on his 2, and it has 15 pen, which no other pen item has for mages. That's just flat pen. Not to mention that he makes great use out of the movement speed because his 2 has movement speed and his passive has movement speed. And I don't know if you noticed, but Kraken has a different range than Whirlpool. So oftentimes you have to drop Whirlpool first, move a little forward, and drop the Kraken. If you didn't realize it, this is probably why you're missing Krakens. But that's just an example of something that someone is building for utility to provide more damage while having less damage overall, right? It's hard to explain, it's hard to understand, but that's what we're trying to do today. Okay, so what I did is I made a Mage Cliff Notes image. You can get it in the description or anywhere I post this video. Now, what this image is going to show, and I'm going to use it, right, to explain every single item slot and the possibility of items that you can buy in different scenarios. Mind you, the items that are in here are the items that I think are good and worth buying right now. I didn't go over every single item because I don't think every item is good. But feel free to look at this and say, hey, you missed an item here. This is probably a good item in this slot. Feel free to do that. The whole purpose of this video is to help you guys learn how to make your own builds by showing you the priorities and the way that we think and value items. Maybe you might come up with something that changes the whole meta. By all means, do it. I would love to hear it. Feel free to drop in the comments or talk to me about it on Twitch. There's nothing wrong with that. I look forward to it. But with that, I don't want to waste any more of your time. We're going to go directly into the image. All right, so here we go. Here's my Cliff Notes image, right? So let's just get right into it. First item. Now, I personally think that the Blessing is the best item you can get. Mage's Blessing is so good. I am a firm believer in going Mage's Blessing and a level 1 of another item more than anything else. I don't really like the other starts. I've tried them. I think they're too risky or they miss out on something, right? But it would be irresponsible for me to not recognize the fact that full boots is a viable start. The only problem is you don't have potions. So you run the risk of either completely demolishing the person you're against, or you run the risk of getting poked and sent out of your lane. or using too much mana and all of a sudden you can't defend red buff or you can't defend back camps, right? You run the risk of missing out on opportunities because you went full boots first for the hope that you destroy your lane in the first wave or two. It's a very risky option, and if you're the best player in the world, you can make use of it. If you're not, that's why it's there. Now, I also don't like this start, but I understand it's a viable start, and it's Book of Thoth level 2, right? It's book 2. It works on characters like Kukulkan. I think it's lacking. It doesn't have the same sustain as Blessing, and it doesn't have the same damage as Blessing, but it's still good for certain characters, and it's still viable, but I think it's weaker, but I have to acknowledge that it does exist, and it is a viable pickup, right? So I would suggest, if you really want Book of Thoth, just to go Blessing and book 1 instead of book 2. With that, we're going to go into the second item. Now, mind you, the second item is usually bought at the same time as the first item because you're buying level 1 of that item with Mage's Blessing. And my personal favorite item to start off is level 1 of either Doomore, Ratatouille, or Chronos Pendant. Now, we're not going to go into the descriptions on why you buy those items first until after we go over Boots, because Boots is the first item you finish, while this is kind of just extra power at level 1 because Boots 1 sucks because it doesn't have anything on it, right? So if you want to start off with one of those, you go with the level 1 of Doomore, Ratatouille, or Chronos Pendant. Again, it has high magic power, good MP5, that's mana per 5 seconds. Having mana sustain in the lane allows you to fight longer, clear longer, and if the jungle ever wants to do anything, you're more than willing to go in because you have the mana to do so. Fantastic item. Now, if you're just one of those characters that want to snowball and do really high damage and you have really high base damage, Raijin, I'm looking at you. Agni, I'm looking at you. You can buy Penetration first. You can buy the little spear at level 1. It's the highest damage you can do early. It's really good. Doesn't have sustain, but it has a lot of damage. Solid item to buy. Completely viable. Now, I added defensive options on here. Believe it or not, I know people don't do it anymore, but this used to be the go-to play when you went against characters like Izanami, on her, whatever it was in lane. You bought the level 1 helmet. It has magic power, and it has protections. It'll make it harder to all-in you in the beginning of the game. Another viable option is just going Boots so you can outrun the person, but I personally like the protections, right? Now, we're not going to go into why you buy the helmets first because, again, we have to build Boots first. So we're only talking about the level 1 version of the item right now. All right? So we're going to get into the Boots right now. All right, let's talk Boots. Now, Boots are important. You're going to finish these Boots items before you finish your second item. Your second item is kind of just a placeholder for now because it was the best item to have at the time. Now, I personally like the Lifesteal Boots, the Shoes of the Magi. And the reason I like Shoes of the Magi, it has more power, which is better for clear, especially early, and it has a little bit of lifesteal. Now, it doesn't sound like much. 8% lifesteal isn't a lot, but when you're getting 60 HP per wave because you hit the entire wave and you only got 1,000 HP, that's pretty good. That all of a sudden you're healing a lot more than you normally would. You might make up for an entire potion in a few waves. It makes a difference. Now, both of them are viable. Both of them are good, and it's 100% opinion based for whatever one you like. I just like Shoes of the Magi first. That's just me. But I understand that Shoes of Focus is definitely a viable option. Pick whatever you're comfortable with, right? And I just have the potion there just to show that at the end of the game, you sell Boots when you have all your items purchased and you just have one more item to sell. You sell Boots, you buy the Elixir Speed, which is 1,500 gold, which is a trick, is around 500 more gold than what you're spending. So if you have to save for Ratatouille, you save 3,500 gold, sell Boots. Now you can buy Ratatouille and the potion at the same time, because if you buy the potion while you have Boots for some odd reason, I don't know if it's still in the game, you have one less movement speed, and it might not sound like a lot until someone gets away because of that one movement speed. So general rule of thumb is have 500 more than whatever item you're trying to buy. Back to that second item slot. Now you can change your lost artifact or your spear to the item that you want, right? I personally like going Doom Orb because Doom Orb gives me movement speed and gives me a lot of MP5, and its level 2 is extremely strong. It even has a passive that gives you movement speed and magic power as level 2. That is awesome. It's a great item, and I usually like it because I'm mainly playing ranked. I'm not playing SPL. I'm trying to take advantage of the unorganized enemy team. And having a little bit more movement speed to get to either a rotation, to an invasion, or whatever it may be that we're planning on doing could be the difference between us winning the team fight and losing the team fight. So I personally think that Doom Orb right now is a very, very, very underrated item. And the only reason why Doom Orb and all these other items are coming back is because they nerfed penetration items by 1/3 of their penetration. It doesn't sound like much when you say it goes from 5 to 15, but it's 1/3 of the penetration. If your item lost 1/3 of its magic power, you wouldn't really buy it anymore. That's why these options are now a thing and why going to penetration is just an option and not a necessity, right? So now, right, after we talked about the whole movement speed and everything, right, Rod of Tahuti is a possible item to buy as your second item. And you're like, wait, what? That's a final item. It is one of your best 1v1 early items in the game. That passive, once it procs into that early game fight, could be the difference between you dying and you winning. This is why you're seeing a lot of mid lanes buy it on the SPL. The reason is they're focusing on winning the 1v1. For whatever reason, SPL strategy is focused around keeping the middle in the mid lane and dealing with a lot of 1v1 scenarios, rather than forcing rotations and forcing the fight elsewhere. I'm not going to pretend to know why that's happening, but that's what's happening, and that's why they're picking up Rod of Tahuti. And if that's what you're trying to accomplish, Rod of Tahuti is a fantastic item to buy. Hebo, Water Hands, your way to victory. That's what people are doing. Solid item, viable item. Buy it if that's what you like to do. Now, Chronos Pendant is more for those characters who need CDR first. There are some characters who benefit off of CDR first, even though it's technically a weaker item, but the cooldown reduction makes up for it. Giannis, Thoth, Hell if you want to. I personally like Doom Orb. Chang'e if you want to. I personally like Doom Orb on her too. These characters all benefit off of having cooldown reduction early for many reasons. Thoth for his infinite poke. It brings those cooldowns up faster, so you're constantly shooting instead of having downtime. Giannis to make his portals and his 2 and his ultra shorter cooldown. He doesn't have many ways to damage you, so when he wants to damage you, he needs his cooldowns up, right? Hell, obviously. Chang'e, obviously, right? Short cooldowns, machine gun mages, you know what they're trying to do. Great characters, but if you want to buy that item, it's perfectly viable. You're not going to have the most magic power. It's a utility-based item. You spoke about utility earlier. Now, the spears. The spears are for characters who just have a metric ton of damage. Their base damage is obnoxious, and they don't really need higher magic power to kill you. They just need the penetration. They need the percentage damage increase, because penetration should be thought of as percent damage increase, because protections is percent damage decrease. So vice versa. Makes sense. So characters like Raijin, who have an absurd amount of damage, want items like Pen first so they can just blow you up once they hit level 5. Fantastic items for those characters. And you can choose any one. You can choose Spear of Desolation if you just hit once and you're not going to take advantage of the passive, or you just don't care about your team because you're selfish. That's okay. Sometimes you got to be selfish and ranked. Spear of the Magus if you want more people to do damage to people and you hit multiple times, so you're going to get benefit out of the passive. Great item. Divine Ruin. If they have healing, get Divine Ruin. Don't be selfish. You need anti-heal. Don't lose because you didn't buy anti-heal. That always feels bad. Just buy it. Just get over it and buy it. It's still a great item and it's cheap. Now, these defensive options that I brought up. Now, people aren't buying them, and I don't know why. They're still good. Now, I put 2 of them here because one of them is cheaper than the other, but both are good. Now, Celestial Legion Helm is fantastic. It's 2150 gold. If you are having a hard time with a character like Set or Uller or Anher, or if you like that disgusting guy, Incon, I love Incon, who plays Izanami all the time, right? You can go one of these helmets, right? And with that, you'll be tankier. They won't immediately burst you down. They'll have to dedicate more to killing you. And if you're just winning, like you just, and let's say you bought the level 1 helmet first and you're doing great and you just got first blood, you're ahead, you got the money to just drop on Legion Helm. It's fantastic. Tyrannical Plate Helm is fantastic. It'll make minions harder to kill, and you might think that's nothing, but when they are relying on killing those minions really fast to rotate or to force the fight on you, those minions being tankier can mean the difference between them being able to one-shot the wave and then go on you after, or have to dedicate many auto attacks to finishing off the waves. It could be the difference between you winning and losing the team fight. Just understand, well, the actual fight in the middle, but just understand that one is like 600 gold more expensive than the other, and that can delay your build too much for buying a defense item first. So choose wisely on what you're buying. Cost is just as important as power. All right? Understand that. And we're going to move on to the 4th item. Now, mind you, this is the 4th item slot. And the reason why I have these things listed as 3rd item, because when you're talking to people in Smite, they consider this your 3rd item if you bought Mage's Blessing first. Nobody really considers the Mage's Blessing a full item. So when they say 3rd item, it's usually your 4th item slot. Okay? I'm trying to solve the confusion from what I wrote down and what you guys are seeing as 4th item. It makes sense, and it's how the lingo is in Smite. I'm trying to get you guys used to the lingo too, so you don't get confused when people talk about things, right? So that's why it's written the way that it is. But this is another spot for penetration. If you haven't bought penetration yet, and you don't need one of the utility items, hell, if you already have penetration and you want a 2nd penetration item, this is a great spot to buy it. Penetration is really good. It's percentage damage increase. Buy whatever one you need. It's still good, right? So let's say you don't want to buy penetration, right? For whatever reason. In this situation, we're going to talk about Soul Gem. Soul Gem is fantastic on characters that can abuse Soul Gem. So characters like Hel, characters like Chang'e, characters like Giannis, characters like Agni, right? The reason why these characters take advantage of it, Hel can proc the Soul Gem's passive by using her heal and by using her cleanse. It will stack, right? Chang'e has a heal, short cooldowns, stacks it up really fast. Giannis can stack it up by his teammates running over his speed up, or with the portal, stacks up really fast. Whatchamacallit? Agni procs it off of his passive. His passive not only gives you a stack of it, but will also proc the active. The item is fantastic. It's only 2,300 gold. It gives you 150 HP, 80 magic power, 10% cooldown reduction, and lifesteal for 2,300 gold. And the passive scales with your item. So as the game goes on and you get more ahead, it will do more damage and heal your team in an AoE. It is fantastic for characters who can take advantage of this. But understand that it's not the highest magic power. It is for characters who take advantage of procs more than they do magic power. That being said, this is still a standard mage item, and people buy it, even if it's not main meta right now, right? And now we got Toxic Blade, which is the Poseidon item. Now, I only put it on here because Poseidon, and I love Poseidon, and I'm a fanboy. I'm sorry. I made room for my homeboy. That's just how it works. But it's an item that only he buys, and again, like I explained it earlier, it's a utility item, and it works amazing for him. I was a non-believer when I saw it on the SPL until I tried it, and I fell in love with the item, so I'm just going to leave it in there as a recommendation for you guys to try it, and this is the best spot to buy it in, right? Cool. So, next item. Let's say you already bought your penetration. Let's say you already have one of your spears or Divine Rune or whatever it may be as your first item. Soul Reaver might actually be your highest potential in damage, which, again, is your job as a mage, but isn't only your main focus. make sure you're covering your basis on having what you need to have before buying this. So if you're just a character like Merlin that could just do whatever he wants, go ahead, buy Soul Reaver third item. Same thing with Raijin. You'd be amazed at how much damage this does. And the greatest thing about this is this makes those Guardians and those Warriors cry like little whiny babies on Reddit. And we know how much we hate the enemy Warriors and supports. We love ours, but the enemy ones, screw those guys. All right? Now, after we went over the offensive options, right? Let's go over the defensive options. Again, I know most guys don't do this, but I'm trying to get you guys to think. Let's say you're against a Hebo jungle, a Mage middle, and there's a pesky Guardian just running at you the whole time. Do not be afraid to buy Voidstone. It's a cheap item. It gives you HP, it gives you protections, it gives you power, and it gives you protection shred. Percentage protection shred. Remember, you cannot do damage dead unless you're Scylla. I still don't understand that change. Also, this is a great 1v1 item. You'd be surprised on how many mage fights you can win because you have some protections. It is fantastic. Do not be afraid to buy this item. Good item. It's fallen off, but it still exists. Try it out. If you don't want to commit to the Voidstone, and let's say they have a little bit of different damage on their team. They have multiple damage types on their team, and they're running at you, right? Another good item to buy, Stone of Binding. Magic power, double protections, MP5. Fantastic item. Amazing item. It's only 1,700 gold. You don't even have to commit to it. You can buy it just to make sure you don't die. Make sure you have CC. Don't just buy it for no reason. You could just buy it early. You won't die. And it'll have damage. And you can sell it. It sells for a good amount of gold. You only lose out on like 600-700. Great bridge item. Awesome bridge item. Definitely keep it in your arsenal. You might just want to throw it in one game because you got the feeling that they're going to start focusing. Just purchase it. It's not a bad item to buy, and it gives it makes them take more damage as protection shred. It's awesome. Now, I personally don't believe in the whole Breastplate of Valor as your fourth item slot, but I will have to respect other people's opinions, and people like Paul have purchased this item on many occasions on characters like Hal, etc., to stay alive because he knows they're going to focus him. So, if you are a cooldown based character and you want to survive a little bit and you want to skip Chronos Pendant, feel free to buy Breastplate of Valor. It's not an item I like to buy, but I have to recognize its value and viability from watching other people succeed in buying it. So yes, it is a solid item that you can buy in this scenario. Now, what I personally think you should buy on healers in this spot is Lotus Crown. Lotus Crown is amazing. Magic power, protections, proc, MP5. All healers want that. Now, let me describe this item to you real quick. It has 60 physical protections on it already. And its passive is when you heal, it gives you a buff that gives you both magical and physical protections. You get 80 physical protections from one item. And let me explain this to you real quick. If you are a healer like Afro or Hell, every tick of your heal refreshes. So let's say your heal over time lasts for 4 seconds, right? The 5-second passive counts after your last tick. So you effectively have a 9-second buff of protections. That is insane. I personally like this item, but again, it only works on healers, while Breastplate of Valor will work on multiple characters, and that's why they're both there, and that's why they're both options, and one of them doesn't have cooldown reduction. So again, choose what you believe is the best for your situation. Again, you might also find another defense item that might fit better than this, so feel free to tell me in the comments. All right, so let's move on to our 5th item slot. Now, I don't know if you guys have caught a theme here yet. If you haven't gotten a flat pen item now, this is your last opportunity to get one. This is a risky time to get it. It's if you're still trying to focus on the squishies. This is also a possibility to buy a percentage pen item. I personally still like flat pen items here, but I completely understand why somebody will want percentage pen here or not. Let me explain this one thing to you. If you do not buy a flat pen item now, you will not be buying a flat pen item for the rest of the game. So I'm just leaving the option up there for you to decide on your own. By this time, you are dealing with tanks, and you might not want to buy the flat pen item here. It is definitely interchangeable with the percentage pen items. Just putting that out there right now. But yes, this is your last chance to buy one if you need one. Now, if you haven't seen a recurring theme, I guess you can find out that Soul Reaver is here again. Let me tell you, spoiler, Soul Reaver is still a good item, and tanks are buying a lot of HP and a lot less magical protection, so this item is still really good. But it also has percentage pen on it. It's still a solid item. Feel free to buy it right here. It's a fantastic item. Let's say you have Soul Reaver already, or there's a lot of tanks running at you and you need a little bit of survivability, but you still want to buy damage. Ethereal Staff is a solid item to pick. It's like 2,600 gold. It has a decent amount of magic power. It has a lot of HP. And the passive not only does percentage HP damage, but gives you percentage HP, so it'll make you tankier. It is a solid item if you want to buy it to do both damage while having a little bit of survivability. Sometimes that is a thing, and you have to keep your mind open and figure out when you need this. This could be the difference between you dying to an assassin in one combo and you killing that assassin because you were able to get your combo off. Trust me, it's a solid item. Again, I call this fifth item the flex item. It is the flexible item that you can buy to round out your build, because your next 3 slots are kind of going to finish your build, right? When I say 3 slots, it's because you have to sell 2 items and buy new ones, right? We'll go over that in a second. So I usually like to put a Chronos Pendant here if I really need a Chronos Pendant on a character like a healer, etc. I think it's really good. If I haven't bought it earlier and I have Doom Orb, it's a solid spot. Oftentimes, I don't like buying a Ratatouille here. I think Ratatouille is kind of your last couple of items. And I don't really like to buy Percentage Pen here because the tanks don't have that much yet. And I don't feel like it's going to fill us out yet. But I do think this is a perfect spot for a flex item. You could put a Staff of Murid in here. Whatever you need to do to fill out your item, whether it just be like you're trying to get your last bit of pen, you're trying to get a tank item, you're trying to get cooldown reduction, this is your slot. As you can see, I have this stuff laid out there, right? So, for example, for like Poseidon, he still wants to have Spear of the Magus because he gets Toxic Blade earlier. This is where he buys his Spear of the Magus. This is your flex items. That's what they're there for. Cooldown reduction, Chronos Pendant, awesome. Percentage Pen, there. Penetration, there. Just buy what you got to buy. And if you want a tank item at this point in the game, we're too late to buy the other items. At this point in the game, you got to start thinking about buying either Mantle of Discord, right, to be tankier, or Mage's Cloak to avoid a stun, which could be the difference between you living or dying. If Humbats can't blink and ult you, he's probably not going to kill you, right? Or if you're a healer, you can buy Lotus Crown. Again, great item, regardless of when you buy it. It's a solid item. Think of this as your utility slot. This is your utility slot. This is where you want to buy things to deal with a lot of situations in game, or to build towards your character's strength. That's what I feel like the fifth item is. That's why it's a little more open-ended. That's why there's no like heavy magic power item on this slot. You can put one if that's what rounds your character out, but this is how I think about this slot. I hope that helps out with this slot, right? That's my mentality for it. Now, your sixth item. You got to understand this is your last item that you can possibly buy that's going to fill things out. Regardless of what happens, regardless of what you buy, 2 out of your last 3 items are going to be a Percentage Pen item and probably Ratatouille. And the only time you don't buy Ratatouille is if there's so many tanks and you just need a ton of Percentage Pen, and that's why you're having it, and you have defense items early, right? So let me go over the Percentage Pen items real quick. So Obsidian Shard is getting a lot of misinformation. It is being shown as the best item to buy every time when it's not. Obsidian Shard is the best item to buy when you front load your damage on the first hit. The way Obsidian Shard works is that after you cast an ability, when it hits a target, I know it says on the tooltip that once you cast it, that ability has 10% pen. It counts the moment you hit the first target. So the passive can be wasted on minions. It only works for your first hit, not your rest of your hits. So the moment you have a character that has their damage spread out to multiple like abilities, like Helm, like Chang'e, like, you know what I'm trying to say, right? They have their like Merlin, their damage is across all of their kit rather than just one ability. Also, you gotta understand that characters like Poseidon, the Kraken isn't the first hit that hits them. It might be your Whirlpool. We all know how much damage Whirlpool does, right? So, for characters that you want to get your first hit off, Thoth, Yanis, Ra, Scylla, where that first hit can be like, damn, right? Then Obsidian Shard is great. Outside of that, Karen's Coin has better stats, it's cheaper, and it's better for most characters. That's the truth behind the item. That's how they work. I think the mental block comes from the fact that when people buy Karen's Coin, they're so fixated on getting the item fully stacked that they think when they don't have it fully stacked, it's a waste of an item. When the fact of the matter is that before fully stacked, it already has more stats than Obsidian Shard. So that's how that part works. That's your idea for the pen items. I normally like buying my pen item as my 6th item because I've noticed that more times than not by this point, the 20% pen is worth more than getting the Rada Tahuti. But if I don't, right, I might be going for cooldown reduction, or I might decide that I need the percentage damage from Soul Reaver for obvious same reason. You see Soul Reaver all the time. That's because it's a really good item, right? Or maybe there are times where I'm here and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna buy Rada Tahuti now. They don't have any pen. They have an assassin or a mage solo, like a dummy, and I really don't need this percentage pen right now. And I just go and I buy Rada Tahuti because I'm greedy, and then I just start one-shotting assassins and mages. They hate me, but I do no damage to tanks. So this is kind of your rounding out your build item. This is when you're getting your big 3, your big closing items, right? So, and in other states, I also have it there for Poseidon again. This is where I like to get Gem of Isolation. We all know how good Poseidon is with slows. Gem of Iso is still a good item for him. That's, again, my personal opinion. But understand that this item is when you're putting the finishing touches on your build. This is the end. This is where we're closing it out. Remember, 2 out of your last 3 items are going to end up being 9 times out of 10 a 20% item and Rada Tahuti. So if you're picking an item right now that's going to round out your build, remember what your last 2 items are going to be. So remember, this is the perfect time. If you need defense, buy it now because you're going to have to buy Rada Tahuti or the 20% pen item next, right? So get that out of the way and understand what you're doing, right? So when you sell your blessing and you buy something else, it's usually one of these items. Another item that could fit in there is Staff of Murden. Normally people don't buy it, so I didn't put it on there. You're normally going to want to buy one of these. As you can see, these items are reoccurring and really good, and that's because you're going to want them in your build. You just got to figure out when you want them. And that's the importance. And then we go all the way back to the 3rd item, right? Where you sell it for Elixir of Speed and replace it. And again, it's one of the items on the 6th tree. And if you can figure out a better item in that place, feel free to do so. And feel free to let me know what that item is. Again, this whole thing is to teach you guys how to start thinking about your build and your items as a per item basis instead of a full item copy and paste build. Okay? That's why we made the video, right? So I hope this helped, right? And I hope that you guys enjoy and use this this little Cliff Notes image that I made. You can find it in the description and anywhere that I post this video. But thank you guys very much for watching. You guys have been amazing. You guys are awesome. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like, and I'll see you guys later. Deuces!